Hello and welcome to episode, I don't know, 5, 6 of Yugi Talk. This is a kind of a spur of the moment market watch because Joey says that a major ban list just dropped. I don't know what this ban list is. I've been at work all day, so Joe just said hop on, and here I am. I think he's already sharing a screen, so Joe, I'll kind of let you just go right into it.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a lot to cover on this ban list, so I think this is going to be a pretty impactful one. Pretty surprising with a lot of the hits that were on here. Number one, you can see right here, I already have up Baron de Fleur, which is a card that I saw a lot of other Yugi tubers talking about that they either just wanted this card banned or they thought it. I never really thought it would actually be banned, and I don't think anyone else really did either. But um, I kind of understand why, being that it is such a generic card that, I mean, almost every deck under the sun plays a copy of this in their extra deck if they're able to make synchros. Um, it just it's just shocking because typically this is not the way that Konami goes about their ban list, just outright banning generic cards. They've never seemed to have a problem with that, but I think it's a pleasant surprise. And I think the main reason that this card and another one that we're going to get to, probably one or two cards after this, um, you can see the way that Konami is building decks currently is they're going away from the Omni Negate or any sort of negation style of play. And don't get me wrong, like all these new decks are still totally power creeped and way too overpowered, but they're more going towards like recursion and floating effects and stuff like that, and trying to stay away from these generic negate monsters, which again, I guess you could look at that as a good, healthy thing for back and forth gameplay. What do you think about that, Dean?
So I'm more concerned right now about the price of
Well, yeah,
these.
so that let me just say that right off the bat, that this is mostly going to be a market watch because this has completely like uh skyrocketed a bunch of cards as well as tanked a bunch of other ones, because there's just some crazy unlimits and some crazy bans on this list. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't love banning of cards
Yeah.
because of what it does to the market, and I think I never really like went and got the collector's rare of this from Maze of Memories because we were afraid that it was gonna be in the rarity collection, which it was. And yeah, as you can see, what was as high, like 50?
Yeah, almost about $50 at the
Yeah,
high.
it's
Um
probably gonna tank now.
yeah,
I don't
and
know.
you know what?
It was a pain when I would play you when you play this card. It was a big time pain. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't
I
love
think
banning
most
cards
people
because it's yeah, I don't know.
I think most people would agree that, like, there's a ton of decks over the years that have just set up, these multiple negate sort of like boards. And I think most competitive players would agree that like that takes away from more like competitive type of play where there's not as much back and forth or, interaction between you and your opponent, which I think even the casual players would say that takes away from the fun as well. So it's kind of a win-win, I feel, for casual and competitive players in a way. Could be wrong. I don't want to speak for anybody here, but yeah, and I will say this is actually holding up in price a little bit better than I expected. What did you buy this for? Maybe like a few months ago, right, Dean? You bought it for like 30 or 40?
Probably like 35. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, most of the listings are still, so you have, this is a pretty reputable seller listing here for 25. But there's still a ton of listings around 30. People are not like jumping ship trying to just dump these at a lower price yet, which I don't understand exactly why. The card is, it's definitely banned, but uh, either way, yeah. So next card we're gonna get to Borreload Savage Dragon. This card I very recently, unfortunately, bought the quarter century rare
yep.
of this card. Paid about $15 for it. and it looks like there's listings now for around like $9, $10, 11. So again, this graph at least is showing that this is going down a bit more than Barone, but hasn't completely tanked yet either.
No, you
So
cut out. Did this get banned today?
wait, I got cut out there.
Just on my side.
Okay. Yeah, so this got banned today as well. Now, so I'm going to jump over here to Master Duel Meta just to click on this card because this was more surprising to me than Barone. Now, both of these are completely generic, just any one tuner plus one plus non-tuner monsters, right? So, you know, uh, typically any deck could make this again that plays synchros. Now, Baron de Floor is a different situation though than Borreload Savage Dragon, where this card says if this card is synchro summoned, you can equip one link monster from your graveyard to this card, and if you do, place a Boral counter on it equal to the link rating. Now, this monster's negate relies on you actually being able to equip the link monster from the graveyard to gain a Boral counter, and you can remove a counter once per turn, negate. It can negate anything like Baron, what you would call an omni negate. However, there's much more like of an opportunity to disrupt this card when it's summoned. You could hit it with an impermanence before it's able to equip and get the counter to negate. Where the situation with Barone, as soon as it hits the field, it has that negate live to counter anything you try to hit it with.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Borreload Savage is a lot more of a fair card. It is still very generic like Barone, but I'm shocked to see that this card was hit, and that's actually why I went after this quarter century rare, because I thought this card was safe. I did not expect this to get completely banned.
What's the motivation behind this getting banned right now? Like, do we know?
So I think like what I said before with the Barone and this both being banned, it's the way that I look at it is it has to be because they're both generic and they're both able to omni negate, essentially negate any sort of card or effect. And I think that Konami is trying to go away from that style of play where they want more interaction rather than just saying no, you can't do this. They want you to have to, either spin a card back to the hand, shuffle it into the deck, and do these more sort of interactive style of gameplay between opponents, which again I think does make the game a bit more competitive instead of just if I go first, I set up 4 monsters that can just say no, you can't do this, you can't do this. Um, I I do kind of see where they're going with this, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it is, like I said, better for casual players, and even I think some competitive players might say the game is a bit more competitive without these omni negate type of monsters. And like I said, I think based off of the newer archetypes that they've been putting out, most of them don't have a monster that can negate, let alone an omni negate like Barone or Borreload. It just seems like they're trying to go into a different direction. And I think it's because they maybe realize that's turned some people off to the game. So
Yeah, I get that. I guess if it's allowing more casual players like me to be able to go to, say, like, collectors and feel confident sitting down and playing like a local, like, I'm obviously totally for that then.
yeah,
um if that's what their motivation is.
I mean
But
yeah,
I feel like there's a
well
lot, but to say, sorry, just to
yeah,
jump into what you're saying, like, I feel like there are other cards that should be, and maybe they are banned. I
mhm,
haven't seen this list, so, but I feel like there are other cards outside of Barone and Borreload Savage, both of which you've used against me in the past,
mhm,
like, that I feel like are much more frustrating to play against. So I'll let you go and see if there's anything else.
yeah.
Um, but these wouldn't,
Um,
if these wouldn't have been my first two. Uh, these would not have been my first two choices as to,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
so yeah, wrapping up on those, both of them not really tanking in price, which is interesting. We'll go to the next card, which is Summon Limit, which our friend at our OTS
Yep.
actually did predict that this would get banned, and I wasn't even considering this. I didn't know. I'm not a huge TCG player. We really only play with each other. I do still. I've been saying it forever, but I do still want to start going to locals
But
and playing.
just to jump into
Yeah.
that, one of the reasons you haven't been to locals uh, is I don't think you want to play against some of these cards. But go on.
Um, not necessarily. Like, yeah, I'll quickly touch on that. Like, I understand how these cards like Borreload and Barone work. It's more so just like the training wheels of Master Duel, knowing the dynamics of timing and when, you know, who has priority to chain something over. It's a. I don't have to tell most of you guys. Yu-Gi-Oh is very complicated, and there's things that I feel like Master Duel kind of holds your hand on that I wasn't comfortable enough to, sit there and have to ask a million questions to my poor opponent, basically. But um, anyway, so getting back to this is a card that our a vendor buddy at the OTS actually did predict. He thought that Barone would never get banned. I kind of called that, but only because a lot of Yugi tubers and high, status people were kind of talking about it, and I think that those people have more pull with Konami than they're given credit.
Hmm.
Because if they start complaining, their audience might start agreeing with them blindly, and then that could become an issue for Konami. But
Hmm.
Summon Limit, very broken card, and especially in the TCG, I understand because most people I didn't realize were side decking this card. In Master Duel, we don't have a side deck; it's best of one format. I do still throw. I've spoiler alert. I've been throwing this into my Labyrinth deck. Very toxic card. Neither player can summon more than 2 times per turn. So the idea is obviously if you're going first in the TCG, you would side this into your deck, most likely 3 copies because it's not searchable, and you would do your full combo, summon a million times, set this card, and then on your opponent's turn you flip this over. So basically it's only they can't summon more than 2 times. So you wait for them to summon, a monster and then maybe a tuner. Boom, you flip this card, their turn's essentially over unless they can pop this card somehow. And most people with just 2 summons, you're not going to be able to get rid of this card. So very powerful card. I understand why it was banned, and I'm very grateful for our vendor buddy from stopping. Or he didn't realize, and it probably wasn't in his best interest to tell me that he thought this was going to get banned, because he had
A
2 or 3
lot.
copies of this quarter century
They
rare,
get more. Oh yeah, the core century. Yeah.
and I was about to buy them for my side deck or for my labyrinth deck or something like that. And luckily I didn't, because they were about, yeah, they were at this price probably when I was looking at them in the high 20s, and now you could see they're, quickly dropping down to the teens. Some listings around $11, $10. So yeah, that's a pretty good hit, pretty big hit as well. um so next card, which is a huge one, and this leads me more to believe in the theory that Konami uses Master Duel as like a testing ground for the TCG and just, the
Mhm.
physical card game in a way. Thunder Dragon Colossus, a card that was famously limited to one, only in Master Duel, I believe. I could be wrong. It might be legal in the OCG, but let's see. Okay, so it is at one in the OCG, and now it has been limited to one in the TCG now. This is a card that I picked up at a random OTS in Queens that Dean and I
Yep.
went to, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And I actually bought the
Mhm.
first edition secret rare. I believe that's the first printing of this card, for around like $10. And I just threw it in one of my binder pages I have for like potential unbanned cards. And this one ended up working out. So last time I looked, there's a lot more cheaper listings here. Last time I looked, there was only listings around $30. So I guess the price is starting to flatten out a little bit. But basically doubled my money on this card. Um, so pretty happy about that.
Now, are you gonna sell this card?
I I bought this card for two reasons. One, because I thought there's a slight chance that one day it would get unbanned, being that they, again, it felt like they were kind of testing out the waters in Master Duel to see if this card was too broken. But I also bought it because I love the way this card looks. Like I think it's a super cool monster. Um, so I don't know. I do like Thunder Dragons. I could potentially play this in a couple decks. So that actually leads me into another card that is absolutely like skyrocketing off of this news. The easiest way to summon this card is Nemesis Corridor. So only one printing ever of this card, and I considered buying just like a playset of this months ago, just for fun, basically, because it does have a decent effect, other than the fact that you're able to just cheese out Thunder Dragon Colossus, basically. So this was like a less than $1 card, and now the
Oh
lowest
wow,
listings are 1875.
wow.
So yeah, this is going nuts. There's only one page of listings as well, and yeah, cheapest you're gonna get this for is like $18. So definitely kicking myself a little bit. I was gonna grab 3 copies for like 60 cents, and yeah, in hindsight, should have done that, obviously. But yeah, so this card, like I said, can be used in multiple different decks because you're basically just able to get a free level 4 body onto the field, target a banished monster, except this card, special summon this card from your hand, then shuffle the banished card into your deck. Now, Colossus summoning condition says either fusion summon or special summoned during the turn a thunder monster's effect was activated in the hand by tributing a thunder non-fusion. So this card is a thunder monster. You activate its effect in the hand, then this gets on the field, and you can just tribute Nemesis Corridor and just boom, bring out Thunder Dragon Colossus. So it's a very almost too easy of a summon. And this card says cards cannot be added from the main deck to your hand, so you can't search anything. It's essentially a floodgate and a very powerful card. It can protect itself from destruction by banishing thunder monsters from the graveyard. Very good card, and yeah, kind of crazy to see that unbanned or limited. So it's limited to one, which I think is fair. So yeah, you have these two kind of in tandem with each other. Now, next, another card that I really never thought they would unban: Arch Nemesis Protos, another Floodgate
Oh my god.
style. Yeah. Well, that's just that. Yeah, we know TCG, direct by TCG is always more expensive, but one printing, again, only one printing of this card, similar to the Nemesis Corridor, and yeah, this was like a $4 card. Lowest listings now $35. So I was not kidding when I said the market is going crazy off of this ban list.
And
It
what
kind
rarity
of
is this?
an ultra rare. Yeah, ultra rare. Only one printing ever. Um, I think it's kind of foolish for people to jump in and start buying these cards, because the fact that these are being unbanned, that just, to me, like that just screams that Konami is going to reprint these cards without a
Yes.
doubt.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
especially if they only have one printing, or Colossus only has well, technically three. There is a ultimate rare, which I'll just look up right now.
Would these be like 10 printings or no? Because that'd be weird, right?
No, I don't think they'd be able to put them in the tin because they're older cards, but very easily could sneak these into another Battles of Legend or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think that will be sooner than later, a lot sooner than people expect. So, in my opinion, kind of foolish to rush in and buy these at these crazy prices. Um, so this card, like I said, another floodgate type of monster similar to Colossus, where cannot be destroyed by card effects. Kind of similar to Colossus. Colossus has to banish to protect itself, but just straight up can't be destroyed by card effects. You can declare one monster attribute that's on the field. So you can declare itself, which is a dark monster. Destroy all monsters with that attribute on the field. And also until the end of the next turn, neither player can special summon monsters with that attribute. So you would summon this, you would declare Dark, which is its own attribute, but this card can't be destroyed by card effects. So you destroy all other Dark monsters, and this card will not be destroyed by its own effect. And then your opponent, until the end of the next turn, cannot summon any Dark monsters, and that hurts. I want to say like 80% of decks. Maybe not nowadays. There's a ton of fire monsters running around, but in the past, and you know what? Maybe that's why they felt comfortable to unban this, because they're going away from. Typically, it was always dark monsters were the most broken in the game, or a lot of the best monsters were dark. But either way, this is still a very powerful broken card that they decided to also limit to 1, I think. Yeah. So limited to 1. And this card is typically played in Sword Soul. So I want to look up
how Sword Soul cards are doing.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. Not Moye is going up. But this has been a steady climb for this card. Definitely spiked a little bit.
You might not see that right away.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean this is definitely from today, from that announcement. And the reason being because Protos is a worm type monster, and Sword Soul can pretty easily search out any generic worm monster from their deck. And then the summoning condition, it also works very well with Sword Soul, banishing monsters with different attributes, which Sword Soul plays water, wind, light, all these different types of attributes. So a lot of synergy with that deck in particular. So
it's a weird cards to just like all of a sudden unban.
Yeah, like very like in the past, very problematic cards that were, I think, rightfully banned. I guess just with the amount of power creep, and I think, like I said, with their focus being this year on fire monsters, maybe they're like, this card doesn't do that much. But I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. In that same vein, I wanted to look at just Thunder Dragon cards in general as well, which these are definitely spiking a bit more. I actually have a copy of this card, previously around $4 or $5 as well. Now the cheapest $15 towards like 20 something, and this card is typically a 2 to 3 of. So Thunder Dragon deck is getting pretty expensive here. Let's see.
Do you have a Thunder Dragon deck?
No, that's another deck that I just like considered buying all the cards that I needed.
Oh man!
And now it's like it's way too late for that. So this is actually the copy that I have. I have the ultra rare from Soul Fusion. Was around like $4 or $5 still, even with Colossus banned. And yeah, now, so this is a card that I might sell. I might hold on to the Colossus because you could technically throw that into a non-Thunder Dragon deck, but there's no way I'm going out and buying 2 more copies of this. So I might just flip this card because, again, I could see this being reprinted in something, just to make it more accessible along with this. So yeah, Thunder Dragon cards going up a bit more than Sword Soul cards. What else do we have here? So, all right, another card that was limited to 1. Yeah. So newly limited to 1 is Chicken Game.
Never heard of this.
What did you say?
I've never heard of this.
It was unlimited. Yeah, in OCG it's at 3, and Master Duel it's also at 3. It's a pretty good card. Some people actually, believe it or not, play it in Dark Magician in Master Duel. Excuse me. But yet another card that only has 1 printing ever in Clash of Rebellions, which we've opened a few of the special editions. So that's the set that has the ghost rare red eyes. Blanking on the name right
And
now,
this was
but
a common, so this could be in like a box somewhere, and I just don't even know it.
yeah. So even when it was banned, it was still like one of the only cards over $1 in that set. And now it's like, yeah, going more towards, for a near mint, you're going to pay close to like $5 for a common, as Dean just said. Yeah, so like $4-5 for a common copy of this. This is a field spell that allows you to, the turn player, to pay 1,000 life points to either draw a card, destroy this card. Your opponent gains 1,000 life points. Neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this
It's a
item.
good card.
Yeah, it's basically a upstart goblin. It just allows you to draw. Now the downside of this card is that when you activate it, it's most likely going to be up on the field during your opponent's turn, which then your opponent can actually use this card as well. They can pay 1,000 life points to draw.
Oh,
So it's like, in my opinion, it's somewhat of a
it's a
fair
fair card
card.
because then if you're using and drawing it, then you're giving 1,000 points to your opponent, who then next turn could just use that 1,000 points and draw.
Well, no, so those are separate effects. The person who activates it has to pay the 1,000, but
Oh,
you can choose to your opponent gain or draw. So,
okay, I got
um,
it. I got
yeah.
it.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
I see. Yeah, yeah.
there are some like very like toxic, like like Exodia Turbo style decks, or like crazy like draw decks that will abuse this card. But overall, I think it's pretty balanced, just for those reasons that I said there. So this one was interesting. I could see this being unlimited in the future, and again, most likely will now get a reprint in a higher rarity. So if you do have this card in common, which I have a couple, I will probably try to flip them. Um, Now next we have, so yeah, I'll scroll through because I'm not gonna touch on all of the bans and the limits. So yeah, anti spell Linkaribo. This basically died for the sins of Snake Eyes, which I don't like the way that Konami does ban lists sometimes, where they'll ban a generic card like this or a card that's used in other decks
To hurt another
to
card.
punish the meta tier 0 deck, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say that's a weird card to ban, but
Yeah. So they were abusing that card, or it was, basically aiding their combos. So instead of hitting their actual cards, which are, too new, I guess, they hit that. So then we have, Magic Spectre, Title. A lot of the Dragon Rulers have been getting unlimited in multiple different formats. And yeah. So okay, Pearly Delicious Memory, that's the last one that's going. Oh, okay. So now we're getting to
oh,
the
Pearly card.
semi-limited.
Yeah. So a pearl. Okay, semi-limited. Okay.
Yeah. So now we're going from 1 to 2 for Delicious Memory. Armageddon Knight. This is a cool card. On summon, send any dark monster from your deck to the graveyard. This could be used in a lot of decks. So the first one that we're going to do Market Watch on is Mobilize Engage. And Sky Striker is supposed to have a bunch of new cards coming out, I believe. At least in the OCG. They might have already released an OCG, and I don't know when we're getting them, but you can see here, they're from Monstrous Revenge. There is a quarter century rare of the alt art version of this, which was still a pretty
Oof.
expensive card, around 140, 130.
Yeah, that's a good jump though.
Lowest listing, almost $400 now.
Holy crap.
Yeah, this card is going absolutely nuts. Only 2 pages of listings. Someone listing it for 500. Good luck with that. And yeah, I mean, all right, someone has a playset here for 375. So
Each 375 each.
yeah, yeah. So if you're in the
Yeah.
market for that,
There's a few
grab.
playsets, but that's it.
Yeah, that's insane. And so even which I have a
But I have
number
a bunch of the
of
ones from
the secret rares
yeah.
from this same set, which were, these held some value. These I think on release these were maybe not. I remember these being around like 10 on release, but maybe that was like pre-sale.
Well,
Anyway,
it was also the from what was last year's set?
What? This?
No, Magnificent Mavens.
Yeah. So there was the non-alt art version of this, I think, was in Mavens as well. But yeah, now the cheapest you're gonna get this for is basically $10 per copy for the secret rare alternative art. And yeah, Magnificent Mavens. This one hasn't really spiked too much. I guess this card was not really short printed. It was probably easier to pull that. But yeah, the alt art, another card that I'm definitely going to be looking to flip in the coming weeks. And yeah, so for the most part, these are all the semi limits. Nothing was newly unlimited.
Well, yeah, one thing
Oh,
was,
actually, no. So
yeah.
yeah, so okay, so this was the only semi limit. Everything else here, these are the unlimits. And the only one that I really want to talk about, because it's the only one that I kind of care about and I play in my decks, is Destiny Hero Malicious.
Mm-hmm.
So this card previously limited to 2, I think, in all formats, Master Duel, OCG, and TCG, for pretty good reason, because this card is not a once per turn effect. I'm gonna go to a newer printing of this card because the old effect is written kind of weird. So you can banish this card from a graveyard, special summon a Destiny Hero Malicious, another copy of itself from your deck. And it is not once per turn. So you basically would get this into the graveyard, banish itself, summon another one. Then if you could get that second copy that you put on the field into the graveyard again, you could banish it from the graveyard again to summon now the third copy available to you from your deck. So you're basically able to do that effect twice, getting a free level 6 dark monster onto the field, which there's a ton of decks that could definitely abuse that. You know, so I think a lot of people were even playing this in tier limits, and it's going to make heroes obviously a lot better. But I don't know. I'm interested to see, because my first thoughts were like, oh, if you have a level 4 tuner, this will be pretty easy now to bring out Baron de Fleur or something like that, which we know now is banned. But still interesting to. I'm interested to see what people are able to cook up with 3 copies of this card now, in the TCG. So
overall, what's your feeling on this? Because there hasn't been a ban list in a while where you're like, we need to immediately talk about this.
yeah, I mean, this is huge. Like big name cards that kind of everybody from casual to competitive knows about, like Baron de Fleur, Borreload Savage, being banned, and Thunder Dragon Colossus, which is a card that people have speculated about for years. I think, saying like, "Oh, I think this could come off the ban list. It could come off." This was kind of a bombshell of a ban list, and it's very clearly affecting the market for cards, and it kind of feels like Yu-Gi-Oh is back, baby.
I hope so. I mean, it's been dead for the past. Go to.
Yes.
There you go. I feel we talked about this on the phone the other day. I feel like the spring coming into summer, everything heats up. So hopefully that's the case. I don't love when cards are banned, like Baron de Fleur, which I feel like a lot of people have put a lot of money into, because I do look at the collector side to an extent. Although, like, as time has gone on, I've realized that it's just not a collector's game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really shouldn't be collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Right?
I mean, unless you're collecting old,
Unless you're collecting really old rare ones, which, I mean, who's really doing that? And again, like, I can pull out, I mean, the 2 cards I'm going to show on screen real quick, and we'll do a better version of this, are these 2 cards, which, I mean, we're gonna put into a video, which is 2 DDS cards, the Dark Magician and the Exodia, which I graded. But I mean, outside of that, I don't really see a point of grading any of the cards. And I have a lot of cards that are still worth a lot of money. I don't really want to sell them, but there's just this constant fear now that they're just going to print a crazy rarity of them, and it's gonna or ban, like you said. Like, I mean, a Cashier Rise Heart, right?
Yeah.
That Starlight was what, $400 at one point, maybe like 350, something around. It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Bands down to like $60.
Hmm.
So it's like I it's a catch 22 because, like you said, they're doing this to bring more players in. Does that mean people are going to buy more booster boxes though? I don't know.
Not necessarily. Yeah, maybe not necessarily. But I do feel like
You're
this
buying a bunch
ban
of
list.
you're buying more than one booster box to chase high value cards,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
That's not
Like
for people who are
you're
just looking
not
to play the game.
if you're looking to if you're looking to build a deck, you'll buy a booster box, maybe two of one set. Then you're gonna go on TCG Player and buy the singles that you need.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
like people who are really like, I'm gonna chase a expensive Starlight. They're buying a case of
Right.
booster boxes, and maybe ripping them just to the face by themselves. So I disagree with the sense that this is better for Konami money wise. I think money wise, it's better not to ban these cards, and to stop printing these ridiculous rarities and reprinting everything.
Hmm.
I think to an extent, like when there's like some of the cards you showed just before, like Chicken Game, like if there's one printing of the card, yeah, reprint it. But Baron de Fleur had its secret rare, collector rare, or sorry, it had an ultra rare, right?
Yeah.
Then a collector's rare, which everyone was buying. That was like 300 something dollars. Then a few months later, this is all in a year span. They go and make the quarter century rare
Quarter century and a
and
collector's
and
in
another
that set.
collector's rare, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they go and ban it 4 months
Yeah.
later. So that I don't love. I'm never gonna love that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think the way they should go about it, and most people's argument is that the way that it seems the OCG does it a little bit better is that they'll make one very accessible version of the card. Like we'll take Chicken Game, for example, where it has a common printing that's never going to be really more than $5 at that. And then they can make a super high rarity, like a Starlight or something like that. But then don't make another rarity that looks exactly like that one. And then the people who want to chase high rarity or collect, they're satisfied, and the people who just want to play the game can get a playset of the commons, and
yeah,
they're satisfied as well.
seems very straightforward. I don't know why they don't just do it. I mean, I haven't been. You get fatigue. I don't think I've gotten Yu-Gi-Oh fatigue. I don't think maybe you get to extent because you play more Master Duel than I do, but that's just any game. Like even people
Yeah.
who play Master Duel every day probably get fatigued, but they're doing it for money.
Yeah.
But in terms of like wanting to like pull out my deck and like duel you, I don't get fatigued for that. Like I want to do that today. It's
Mhm.
just our schedules don't match up necessarily all the time to do that. But I have had fatigue in terms of like going and buying stuff because I mean, how much did we buy last year compared to this year?
Oh, it's insane. Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's
And that, in large part, that's due to, you know, as much as I love Rarity Collection, we've said this 100 times, it did obviously,
well,
affect the collector's market
Rarity Collection, yes, but the core centuries prior to that.
in general. Yeah.
Like they started the core centuries prior to Rarity Collection, and
Yes.
it lessened to Starlight. Starlight market crashed. That hurt me. Like that kind of lessened and then yes, like the Rarity Collection, like okay, what's gonna be uh a core century, and when does this core century end? Is
Yeah.
it done this year?
It's supposed to be at
So
I think the
so
end
are
of
they not,
2024.
so like my thing, okay, yeah, which is ridiculous.
Mhm.
So but let's go with that. Fine, like they're supposed to be just 2023. That's the 25th year, but they're going to do all of 2024 as well. So they're going to suck 2 years out of this.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah.
Are they going to print any more core century rares after that?
I would like to believe no, but you never know. What my hope would be that after that they come out with another totally new rarity that hopefully they never touch the way that they did with Starlights. And I guess just to wrap things up, I did pull up here as we were discussing the last card that most people were actually talking about this card, Apollosa, and Baron de Fleur to be banned. Ended up being poor little Borreload Savage Dragon, but now I lost it. Apollosa. This is a card that is, I think, confirmed to be in Rarity Collection 2,
Yes, yeah, it is.
but I'm interested to see if this is like kind of spiking up. Not
No, it shouldn't, because it's Radio Collection 2 is 4 weeks away.
yes,
If
but
that.
my thought process was that this was people had ban list fears about this card being banned. So I wanted to see if just in the short term there was a little like bump up today when people were like, "Oh, this is not getting banned." Doesn't seem to be the case really, but
Okay, we're like a month away. Sorry, May 22nd.
yeah, yeah. And
No,
I
but
mean, even well before this was guaranteed to be in Rarity Collection 2, this was like, I think, if not one of the most expensive Starlights out there.
I think it was the most expensive Starlight.
Yeah, beautiful looking card. And yeah, it's. I mean, now that it's been listed to be in Rarity Collection 2, it's only going to continue to plummet, most likely.
And then it's gonna be like a $300 Quarter Century and like a $600 Starlight. That's what it's
Yep.
gonna end up at.
Yep.
Which I people who went and bought like those Starlights, just again, there's a risk to it.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Like, I collect a lot of baseball cards now, so like I see that market and I see the risk to it, and they're just the amount of cards that they print, and like, and that's a totally another issue that's not related to this. But Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have to do this. Baseball, again, every single season is a new season. Like, they're not rookies anymore. You have to print new sets. They change teams, like all these things. Obviously, that's a huge money grab. They're printing more baseball cards than they have since like the 90s. But for Yu-Gi-Oh, like Apollosa has, what is it, 6 printings?
Yeah, 5
with every rarity except for Ghost Rare.
Yep.
So why put it in Rarity Collection? You could already get all of it.
Yeah.
You want to release a Ultimate Rare so bad, then do it in an OTS.
Yeah. Well, I guess the one bright side to that is that I believe it's the alternate art that was only in Maximum Gold and Mavens that is getting reprinted. So, but still, it's obviously affected the price.
Yeah, that's like the IP. They're coming out with another IP Masquerena, the alt art Quarter Century.
Yeah.
So they don't care.
Nope. Yeah, that's clearly not something that's on their mind. But yeah, I think we'll wrap up there.
Yeah.
This was, like I said, the last card I kind of wanted to touch on because people were speculating this could have gotten banned as well, being the fact that it is technically a generic card that can set up multiple monster negates by decreasing its attack. But Apollosa survives another ban list, and rest in peace to Perone and Borreload.
Just last point real quick. Do you think Perone gets unbanned?
Ever? Yeah, I mean, clearly, like, they brought a card like Thunder Dragon Colossus back, which most people never thought would happen.
Let's say in the next year.
Probably not in the next year. I think that would be. I think I don't know. I haven't been. We've only gotten back into Yu-Gi-Oh in the last 2 years, but as far as I know, that's kind of unprecedented for them to ban a card and then unban it that quickly.
That's what I